Welcome to the Wiser Wealth Management Roundtable, where we believe the best financial advice should always be conflict-free. I'm your host, Casey Smith, guiding you to financial freedom as my co-host today, Jordan Sute. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, Casey.
Well, we're going to continue on our path of 10 things everyone should know about taxes. Today, we're going to talk about scams and fraud.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, we should have done this at Halloween.
We should have. We missed a great opportunity.
Oops. Halloween's typically not on my mind when I'm we're building podcast
taxes.
topics.
Yeah, don't come to mind.
And taxes, that's right. Although taxes could be scary for many people. All right, so there are so many things out there over the years. You know, we even have like Wesley Snipes going to jail because he didn't think he owed any taxes because taxing Americans is non-constitutional, and just crazy stuff people believe.
Right.
Which, you know what? It's here. We're supposed to pay tax, so we do it.
Regardless of what you believe, they're going to come get their tax somehow, some way. So you got to be ready for it.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's also, people that are scared of the tax man.
Yeah.
And that fear of the IRS, that's probably somewhat warranted, creates other issues. And so the unintended consequences of that is IRS has produced a list of dirty dozen tax scams for 2020. So I thought we'd start with this. There's a YouTube video out there that the IRS did, which is pretty advanced for them, I feel like, because they don't do emails or anything.
Sometimes they don't answer the phones either.
They don't answer the phones, but they have time to do a YouTube. I guess it's better than a TikTok.
True. I do not want to see the IRS on TikTok.
All right, so let's just start right down their list. Phishing scams.
Yeah, so the IRS, there's a lot of talk of, getting phone calls from the IRS, demanding payment, demanding this, whatever. But the IRS is never going to reach out via phone or email first to you. And I don't think they're ever going to reach out to email, now that I think about it. The first contact and most of the contact they have with you is going to be through mail to your home address that you used on your tax return. The only time they're ever going to call you is if you arrange a call with them and a particular agent tells you, I'm going to call you on this date at this time. So you have to be very wary of any emails, any phone calls, most likely a scam, and you got to have your guard up and just be ready to deal with them.
Next on their list is fake charities, something that I guess, I don't know. I mean, I have certain charities that I'm passionate about. I know they're not fake.
Right.
But, we had a client, she has since passed away, very sweet lady. And she would give to anybody who asked.
Oh, wow. And
so she gave $10 to all these charities. I suspect that most of them were fake, very creative mailers that she would get in the mail, and sometimes phone calls. But she gave $10 to each one. She had a little house down in Florida, and the mail got so big that they delivered it in bags.
Wow.
Her mail would come in bags. Eventually ended up being 2 large duffel bags of mail with everyone asking for $10 or $20. And then they would start, because, when you send it in, they always ask your address and your phone number. And then they started calling her, saying, we need more money, being very aggressive in getting more, quote, donations.
Right. And I think the fake charities, it's like twofold. You have that, just giving to charities that may or may not be legitimate charities that you have to be wary of. And then on another hand, you have causes that are legit that you're giving to, but maybe they're not recognized as a charity in the eyes of the IRS. So they're not a 501c3. You're giving money on GoFundMe to somebody who needs help.
Which may be real help, and you're helping a real person.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. Yes, you're giving out of the goodness of your heart, and they're going to use it for the purpose intended. But the IRS has actually come out and said GoFundMe's, that they don't count, because that's not a legitimate 501c3 charity. So
you're just being nice.
You're just giving out of your post-tax dollars with the goodness of your heart. So you have to be wary from both ends of who you give your money to, especially if you want to claim it on your tax return.
Well, if you want to claim it, you can go to the IRS website, irs.gov, and you can actually do a search for 501c3s that are tax deductible. Yeah. They're all there. They all have to get pre-approved. I'm on a couple of charitable boards, and we all have our own tax ID, and we're all listed on that website.
Right.
Threatening impersonator phone calls. So we have a group here at Wiser They named themselves, okay? I didn't come up with this name, but they called themselves the Wiser Women. And COVID has kind of shut this down for right now. But prior to COVID, we were doing at least annual lunches. It started off quarterly lunches. And it was basically because I realized that I had older widowed women, and statistically, they're most likely to be taken advantage of. So the idea was, okay, we generally meet with our clients once a year, but that's not enough if there's more going on. And so in some cases, as they got older, I was driving to their houses and I would pick them up. And, I come inside for a minute. And then in one case, there was 3 months of mail piled up on the counter. And I was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So I contact children and said, hey, I was at your mom's house, picked her up to take her to lunch, and there is a ton of mail. And then nothing happened. And so the next lunch we did, the mail was still there.
Oh gosh.
And so I literally went in and sat down at her table, and I said, hey, Mrs. Insert name, I'm going to help you get through this mail. And she had to be days of her water getting cut off.
Oh goodness.
Because I kept saying all these past due water bills.
Yeah.
And eventually of course there's tons of junk mail and lots of charitable donations asking for
$10, $20,
for help.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, so we created this Wiser Women group, and that's one of the things we would talk about sometimes, just in conversations about these crazy things that would happen. Well, because of that group and because of things that we talked about when we were at lunch, we had a lady who got a phone call that said, hey, you owe the IRS $5,000. And if you don't go to your bank and meet me there to pay me, the sheriff will be coming to arrest you. Now, it just so happened her husband had passed away, and she had back taxes that were owed.
Oh, no.
And we were trying to sort through that, which is very easy to do with the IRS.
Right.
There's nothing threatening about that
Right.
process. But she actually owed money.
Right.
And so she picked up the phone or she got in her car with this person on the phone, because the person on the phone said, do not hang up on me.
Because they didn't want her to call anybody else to realize it was a scam.
And tell me which bank you're going to, and I'll be there, or the sheriff's going to come arrest you.
Oh,
And she drove here to this office with this person on the phone.
that's
And
terrifying.
she comes in the front, and our at the time, we've had some staff change since then, but at the time, the person working up front was not a hugger.
Oh gosh.
and I walked in the side door. I come in, oblivious that this is happening, and she's hugging this client. I'm like, "What is? Did somebody pass away?
Something
what
has happened." Yeah.
And yeah, so she didn't know what to do, but she knew that she needed to show up here because we could help solve the problem.
That's good.
We told the police department. They didn't care. They probably get so many of those
They probably get
calls
a
that
lot,
they have
yeah.
no manpower to serve it. That's
Right.
probably a better comment than what I just said. But yeah, so there are people out there threatening the IRS, or threatening clients or people thinking that they are the IRS.
Yes, and that's not the case.
But you already just told me the IRS doesn't call people.
No, unless it's arranged.
Unless it's arranged.
They're not
call.
calling you. Yeah.
So if you get that, just hang up.
Hang up. Yeah. Or, mess around with them for a little bit and then hang up. Waste their time and then hang up. Yes.
I have seen YouTube videos of people doing that. It is hilarious. I don't know
is
that I'd
fun.
recommend that. I think the safest thing to do is to hang up.
Just hang up.
Especially if you're a widowed woman living by
Right.
yourself. We don't need to attract any more attention. All right. What about social media scams?
This is interesting to me because, I haven't heard of this necessarily, but I will say I was watching a video recently on social media, and somebody in the video made the comment that the state of California just randomly took $4,000 out of her bank account without her authorization. And as a CPA, I know that didn't happen. California is not just going to, they don't have your bank information just to take it. They're not allowed to do that.
There'll be a lot of warnings prior.
Yes. And so, and all these people were responding to it oh my goodness, I had no idea this could happen. And I'm like, oh, the misinformation that is being spread is just awful. So be wary of what you see on social media, and don't trust these people who have these outrageous claims, because it's probably not true.
Well, the one running right now is this whole $600 thing.
Oh, yes. Yes, I've seen that too. And on Venmo, if you receive any money, whether you're paying your roommate for rent, it's going to be taxed. Yes, that is
Right.
not the case. Yeah, you got to be careful what
Right.
you listen to.
We should just kill that right now with this whole $600 thing.
Yeah.
Okay, right now, what's the limit? Let's see. I make little cute Christmas trees. It's about to be Christmas season, or it is Christmas season. I make these little cute Christmas trees as a hobby, and I sell
Right.
them on Etsy. what's the dollar amount before I have to claim that as income? $2,000 or $600, right?
Yes,
That's,
$600.
yeah. Okay. $600 is a limit.
Right.
That's why.
Exactly. Yes.
That's why all this is happening, because people are making side hustles, because we're Americans, we're entrepreneurs, all of us.
Right.
We're making side hustles, and the IRS is like, hey, you are making money, but you're not paying the income tax. But here's the other side of it. That $600, if I made a Christmas tree and I sold it for $600, is that what I made?
Yeah, exactly. No,
it's not.
You probably netted 150.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you'd have to sell 5 of them to, yeah.
Exactly. That's
and
my
then
point.
it's a hobby, yes, that you should probably be paying income tax on.
Right. So
Yeah.
so all you're going to do in your return is say, hey, I have this side hobby. I sold this. I made this amount of profit. And for most people, when they really look at it, they didn't make anything.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
So in that scenario, the $600 thing is nothing to be scared about. But
Right.
what they do is they use that to then get you, to motivate you to go do something that has nothing to do with any of this.
Right.
Which could be a scam.
Yep. Exactly.
And I will say that the people who pander to the far right on politics are really good at the $600 thing. They're really good. I've seen some things out there online. I'm like, no, this is stupid.
Right.
But if you're on the far left side of things, they're also equally things
Exactly. Yes.
that they get you
Yes.
on. That's just stupid.
Right.
And when you read it, you go, oh man, they're taking advantage of these far left people.
Right. Yep.
The truth is usually somewhere in the middle. Isn't
Somewhere,
it?
yes. There, yeah.
Good
always,
life lesson there.
Yes.
Truth is usually somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
I have children. I understand.
Take
how this
nothing
works.
at surface level. Yes.
Okay, let's talk about refund theft.
This happens more than you think. It's awful too.
Okay, go ahead.
Especially this year with stimulus. You have elderly people, especially, who haven't had to file returns because their only income is Social Security, and then they go to file their tax return and somebody's already filed for them and claimed stimulus. So this is a big issue this year, and to be honest, the IRS has not given us a good answer on what to do if somebody has claimed your stimulus. So still working through a lot of these issues, but you just have to be wary about who has information for your social and your name and your address to be able to file on your behalf.
Which kind of goes to their second point, which is senior fraud.
Right.
And we've already kind of covered that, I feel like, the examples. And I never thought of this. This is right here in their white paper. Nursing homes claiming that they are owed the money for all the stimulus.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, I guess how they look at it is, hey, and this happens. You're on Medicaid, right? So there's a lot of people that are supporting you now. So I could see how that might be, but it still belongs to the taxpayer first.
Yes.
Whether they have to write a check back to the government. I believe that signing over your Social Security is a thing too. You can sign over your Social Security to somebody. They're signing it over to a nursing home as a guaranteed payment to pay for services.
Yeah.
So they're thinking that they also should get the stimulus money. Then that might be true, but it still has to pass through the senior first, not go directly there. Scams targeting non-English speakers. I am only an English speaker, and I don't speak other languages very well at all. So
Neither do I.
I'm not as worried about this one, but it makes sense.
But I can see
you
how
live in a
this-
foreign land, and you just don't want to be in trouble with the authorities, and they target people who aren't as versed in the laws of the land.
Right. This is where I do hope that social media can get to certain people, the right social media, to let them know, don't answer the phone call.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Unscrupulous return preparers.
Yeah, this is a big one.
You gave me an example earlier. What was that?
We recently had a new client come to us, and one of the very first things we ask is to see their last prepared tax return. So he hands over the tax return, and I realize that he hasn't received his Georgia refund. Or I think maybe he told me that, or we figured it out on Georgia Tax Center. And so I start looking at his return and who prepared it. And just a quick Google search gave me all I needed to know. It was not a good preparer. There were many reviews out there of shady things he had done. And so I reached back out to our client, and I was like, I see a direct deposit, information on this return. Can you confirm for me that this is your bank account? And he was like, actually, that's not my bank account. And so we realized that this preparer had given him his returns back in April that had the correct direct deposit, and then had changed it after the fact in order to take the refund. And the good thing is that the IRS has protocols in place to avoid this. No more than 10 refunds can go into one bank account, but states do not. So Georgia, like, they don't catch it as easily as the IRS. So the Georgia refund was the one in question, and we had to end up calling Georgia to get them to correct the issue. So you have to be careful with return preparers, especially if they're not a CPA.
Is there any type of insurance on that? Like, did Georgia cover that eventually, or?
Well, they had held the refund. Luckily for him, I think the preparer had probably taken other refunds first, and Georgia started to catch on. And so they just put a hold on it until somebody called to question. So when we called to question, they were like, okay, yes, we see that this was going into the incorrect account. And so we got him a check in the mail.
Check in the mail.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's good to know that at least someone's on top of that.
Right. Because anybody can get a P10 and sign a return, but not everybody can be a CPA. And so we, operate behind a code of ethics, like where we would never do that. I mean,
they almost have nothing to lose.
Exactly. Besides a Google rating,
Right.
So if you are using somebody that's not a CPA, even if they are a CPA, just give them a quick Google search to make sure there's nothing bad out there. Yeah. There's probably not a ton of good because a lot of people don't review their CPAs on Yelp, but Maybe they should, but a lot of times if something bad has happened, you'll find it out there on the internet.
Okay. Offer and compromise mails. I feel like, I don't know if I've noticed it recently, but on XM radio in my car, that every advertisement was for, I was like, am I a target market for not paying my taxes? I don't understand.
Yeah, the ads you get sometimes, I'm like, why am I getting this ad?
Right.
Yeah, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That's probably the best piece of advice with these.
What I found interesting
mails.
on their short little paragraph here is that there's actually an offer and compromise calculator on the website. So you can go there and type in some information and it'll tell you if you're eligible. There are 54,000 offer and compromise submitted to the IRS. How many did they accept?
18,000.
18,000. That's way less than 50%. And,
right.
and those advertisements make you sound like that no one pays their taxes. You kidding me?
Yeah. Always start on IRS.gov. Don't start with these mills. Obviously, the best advice you're going to find, or at least the guidance, is on the IRS's website. And then you can maybe work your way to a credible offer and compromise firm, or,
you really would need, I would recommend probably an attorney.
Yes, definitely.
If it's bad enough, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. We'll actually talk about if you owe money to the IRS. That's on our agenda on this chat. Fake payments with repayment demands.
This is another scam we haven't come across this, thank goodness. But there are people out there who will file a bogus return, deposit the refund into your bank account, and then call you and say, oops, that was an error on the IRS's part. We need to get it back. And then they'll tell you to do all these crazy things like buy gift cards and send them to them to repay that bogus refund. So just know that if it sounds crazy, it is crazy. The IRS is very reasonable. This is not how it's going to go down. And honestly, if the IRS ends up depositing money into your account on accident, they probably are going to say, our bad, whatever. But also
right.
That doesn't happen. So don't hold your breath that you're going to get a refund.
Payroll and HR scams.
Yeah, this is another similar to the fake repayment, having to do with gift cards and getting W-2 information and just information that scammers should not have access to, and then trying to hold it over your head. Again, if it sounds like a scam, if it sounds fishy, it probably is. So just be careful with the crazy ideas they're coming up with.
And people can get very creative. I've only seen one Ponzi scheme in my career related to a client.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought these statements in. They said, hey, we've had money here with your firm for a while. Enjoy working with you. But we started working with another investor locally here, and his returns are just so much better. And I'm thinking to myself, man, we use index funds and the markets, everything kind of works out on its own, right? Using low cost index funds. And typically there aren't any strategies that beat us long term. In fact, I have a 99% chance that a strategy won't, according to academic research. But in the short term, there could be things that are done in portfolios that would exceed our rate of return. So I started looking at the return. It didn't make any sense. It said Charles Schwab on it. But I see a lot. We transfer a lot of money into this firm. Our growth rate this year is 55%. Last year's 35%. And I've seen a gazillion Schwab statements. The logo is smaller than normal.
Uh-oh.
The font wasn't quite right. And I just looked at him and I said, this is not a normal Schwab statement. Like, this looks different.
Right.
And they said, oh, it's Schwab based in Europe. So that's why it looks different. And I was like, why would Schwab in Europe have a different font than
Right.
Schwab here when Schwab is based here? They're not based in Europe.
Right.
So they had them convinced. They were
Wow.
using fake statements.
That's crazy.
And in the end, they lost all their money
Oh,
because they were in a Ponzi scheme.
too good to be true.
Yep. Yep. Getting these crazy fake rate of returns. And what's interesting, we all get that email, from some name we can't pronounce in India who wants to send us a gift card for $1 million, but we have to send him one for 50,000 first.
Right.
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 And something's not quite right.
Right.
The English is broken. Something there's like, this is stupid. This
Right.
is not real. But they're getting more advanced
Right.
and looking like legit emails.
Yes, they are. And moving on to the ransomware, that's the next. Yeah, if you get an email and it seems to be from the IRS, do not click a link. I mean, that is just a gateway to bad news. And don't think that you're above it either, because my very first week working at Sute CPA, I get an email about changing my Microsoft password. And sure enough, I click it and I change my password. And then I happened to mention it to Michael later that afternoon, and he was like, no.
No.
We were on the phone with IT within the next minute, and we had to change all this stuff. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I thought I wouldn't fall for something like that, but here I
Right.
am, like falling for something like that. So
Yeah, I don't get those, at least not yet, but my wife does. She gets emails to reset her Facebook login. She got one even for her retirement account, which I thought was weird.
Yeah.
And she always forwards them to me. She's like, are you trying to get into my account? And I'm like, no, and don't enter anything into this because
Right.
it's not real. You're going to put your password in, and you're literally giving them your password when you do that.
right, exactly.
So ransomware, ransomware is actually where they steal stuff on your computer and
See,
hold it for
I'm
ransom.
so behind on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fall for this.
Yeah. No, you're not. You're not.
I
Don't
don't
admit that.
I'm just kidding. Just
But
kidding.
no, that's where they lock down your hard drive, and you have to pay them X amount of dollars in order to get your hard drive back.
Or they wipe it, right?
They're threatening to wipe it.
Yeah, I've heard of big companies.
There's one. Was it Colonial Pipeline recently
Oh,
that
yeah.
happened to? I think they ended up paying was it $3 million or something to unlock it.
Wow. My fiance's, his.
That was high enough profile enough that the federal government got all that
Oof.
back. Or maybe it was 3 million Bitcoin. I don't know. We actually talked about it in one of our 5 and 20s on YouTube, but yeah, you want to make sure your computer's locked down.
Yes.
from
Don't click
outsiders.
any links. And
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah. What's funny is we have a compliance company we work with here, and they send all of our employees emails to see
Testing
if they'll
them?
click on it
Oh,
or
my
not. And if they
goodness.
click on it, they go to this website and say, hey, this is a phishing email.
Oh,
You should
no.
be clicking on this. I don't know. I don't know if producer Hadley has clicked on those yet. No, you've caught them all, producer Hadley. I'll admit I've clicked on one or two that were like, oh, well, why do they need this? And like, oh, oops.
The whole company went up in flames because of one click.
Because of one click. Well, it's a test click in that case. All right. So, there's a couple of things that I've learned in the last few years. And one is, if you get a letter from an attorney, there's no reason to freak out. So many people are just bullies with letters of attorney.
Right.
Nothing related to Wiser, but through our private equity fund, I had some players that were not very ethical, and we had to go a few rounds with them before we eventually won. But I kind of became immune to the whole attorney letter or I'm going to sue you comment. It's kind of like, okay, well, yeah, whatever.
Right.
So over the years, I've come also immune to the IRS letters.
Right.
Not for me personally, but just letters that come in the mail that
Right.
you owe this. So many of them are. It's really the IRS has messed up.
Right.
Or right now, we were talking earlier, I got a letter for a client who owes $12,000 in tax, but we just filed
Right.
at the deadline appropriately, no penalties.
Right.
And I got a letter say we haven't received your payment, yet we have a copy of the check sent to the IRS, and we have a delivery confirmation
Right.
receipt from the IRS.
Yes.
So why do people freak out so much when they get an IRS letter?
I mean, it can be scary when the line is you owe $12,000 in bold font, bigger than everything else. I mean, that's nerve-wracking when you open it. But yes, a lot of letters from IRS, from state authorities are premature. That's what they send them out before they're fully done processing returns, cashing checks.
Is it a lot of it just automated?
Yes.
Machines are sending it?
That's the problem, is that a lot of it, it's not going through a human to kind of put the eye test to it and say, is this legit? No, it's a machine that is printing them out faster than it knows what to do with them. And then they go out and people freak out. But I mean, I get it. I would probably freak out as well, but there's no need. You just got to read through it, try and figure out what they're saying. If it doesn't make sense, then yes, it probably was a premature letter. If you know that you paid all these estimated payments and they're saying that you didn't, that's an easy fix. You just got to show them your canceled checks and there you go, So
I feel like I do that every year with the state of Georgia.
Oh, they
every
are the
year
worst.
With the state of Georgia, they tell me I didn't pay my tax and I literally have to go get a canceled check.
Yes.
Submit both sides to them on their little portal.
Yes.
And then I never hear from them again.
The crazy thing about Georgia is that we've had clients in the past couple of weeks get these letters saying like, you didn't pay this estimated tax. And then we go into the online account and we can see that it's all clear. And it's like, how does your online account not correlate to the letter you just sent, So it's wild, but it is an automated system.
Now, if you pay online, do you have a better chance of not running into that versus paying by check?
Likely, yes. But still, I can't.
There's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee.
Yeah.
There's really no rhyme or reason to why they're sending these crazy letters. But sometimes the letters are legit, and then
there's a mistake.
Yeah,
hopefully not by the tax preparer, but that happens sometimes.
Right. And so maybe you left off a 1099-R on accident or something like that. And so you didn't pay tax on it. Now you have this big notice. You owe all this tax. If you prepared your return yourself, I would take a look at it, see if you can answer it. If you feel like it's maybe above your head or your pay grade, contact a CPA. I'm sure they'd be willing to help. Sure. If a CPA did prepare your return, then I would go back to that CPA because I know for us, we honor that notice. We'll take care of it if we prepared the return.
Right.
And don't freak out. It'll be okay. You don't have to pay all that $12,000 up front. There are options that you can work around. And then also options for abating maybe penalties that are on that are just as much as the tax due. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what if one of those letters is legit or we know that we have a big tax bill and we can't pay it?
So several options there. If you have a big tax bill that you can't pay in one lump sum, you can enter into a short-term payment plan with the IRS. And it is a formal arrangement, but if you can pay it off within 90 days, there's no fee. So you're just going to tell them, hey, I'm going to make several periodic payments over the next 90 days to take care of this balance. They're going to say, okay, no harm, no foul. We aren't going to charge you for that. Just pay it when you can. If it's going to take you longer than 90 days, you can get set up on a formal payment plan where they direct debit money out of your account every month. And you agree on the amount, you work with them to decide what is a reasonable amount. And that does come with a fee, but you're in an arrangement. They're not going to send you to collections, anything like that. It's much more manageable for you and for them. Because the IRS, they just want their money at the end of the day. So
do you know what the interest rate is on that? What interest rate they charge? Is it reasonable?
It is reasonable. I mean, nobody wants to pay interest to the IRS, but it is reasonable within reason, I guess. I don't know.
So it's like, if I remember correctly, it's like a 4 to 6%.
I think it's 6%.
6% rate.
I think it's 6, yes.
Which is better than most credit cards, right?
Right.
So
oh yeah, definitely better.
Showing and it doesn't show up in your credit report that you owe money to the IRS, where
right.
It does show up on a credit card that you owe money to a credit card company.
Right.
So the offering compromise, or not offering compromise, but the payment always seemed better to me.
Right. And then
to make that.
Yeah. On the flip side, say you file your return in July and you're supposed to get a refund and they don't pay it out until December because the IRS is slow sometimes. They'll pay you interest for holding it for so long, So it works both ways. You don't always get interest. I mean, if you file your return in February for a refund and you get your refund in March, they're not going to pay you interest on that.
Right.
But after that deadline, if they're holding on to it for an unreasonable amount of time, they'll pay you interest as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So state of Georgia or any state for that matter, I would assume would have the same payment options.
Yes, correct.
I've helped a few people with the IRS, and you can actually apply online. You never really have to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I believe that there was a maximum though, above $50,000. It looked like there was another step.
Yes, correct. Under 50, it's a very easy process, all online, all automated. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Above 50, it gets a little bit hairier.
Because they want more money up front. Is that the idea?
Yeah. And I mean, with a balance that big, they really want to know, how are we going to get this cash? Like, what is the process?
What's the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And if we want to hit the refund again that we talked about in the Dirty Dozen, where we talked about refund theft, not necessarily refund theft, but maybe you filed your return for 2020 and you were due stimulus and you were due a refund and you never saw it. If you have back taxes that you owe that have already been assessed, so the IRS you filed your return, you never paid, the IRS has sent you a letter saying you owe $5,000. If you were due a refund this year, they will take that refund and apply it to the balance. And then if there's any left over, you'll get that. But so that's not necessarily refund theft, but if maybe you think, oh, I was owed a refund, I never got it.
Right.
If you owe back taxes, that's where it likely went.
Gotcha.
But only if you filed those returns. If you haven't filed for previous years and you owe, they're not going to take it because they don't know about it quite yet.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, good chat.
Yeah.
Hopefully people found it interesting. Big thing is, I think like this is something you stay ahead of.
Yes.
So if you owe a lot, it's probably because you didn't do the right planning back in September.
Right.
So tax planning is very important from that standpoint. Even if you know you're going to owe it, at least you start working on a game plan. You have 6 months potentially to work on a game plan to get it paid down or increase your expenses the year prior. That's a normal technique for a lot of business owners.
Right.
And then obviously, look for the mail for communication.
Yeah.
Don't focus on emails or social media. Don't believe anything you read on social media for the most part.
Yeah, take everything with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan. Thanks for the chat.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Wiser Roundtable podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss out on new episodes. Head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out if you have any questions. We would love to hear from you. Today's episode was produced and edited by Lilton Moore.